Front Pages, hot off the press, served to you fresh. We present to you local and international newspaper headlines for the day with in-depth analysis from seasoned professionals. Start your day the right way on 99.3 Nigeria Info. Nigeria Info.
Bright and early morning. Welcome to the show. It's called the Front Pages on 99.3 Nigeria Info. It's time to look at the stories that make it to the front of the pages today across the dailies that we have with us on the table. And here I have the Guardian newspaper, our media partner. Also here's the Daily Sun, the New Telegraph, and the Vanguard. I am Wemimo Adewuni. Welcome.
I'm Sheriff Quadry. The Punch is right in front of me. Daily Independent is also here. Daily Trust as well as the Nation newspaper.
Rotimi Sankore joins us this Wednesday morning. Good morning.
Morning.
And Nigeria, we're live on Facebook, also on YouTube, Nigeria Info 99.3. Just do a quick search and you find us there. We're also on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM. Your comments can also come through on WhatsApp 08095975805. We'll try to read as many as we can. Remember to keep them short and sweet so we can read as many as we can. Let's kickstart with this story from the Guardian newspaper. Why we launched new visa policy by Buhari. There are two writers, and this is from the Guardian. President, others are lay fair over national security. It will aid economic integration, says LCCI. That's a big story, and it's reported by the Guardian newspaper. It's also here on the Daily Sun. New visa policy, journalists, clerics, sport stars, others to get single entry. 5 airports designated for visa on arrival. This is from the Daily Sun. It's also the New Telegraph. Federal government launches new visa policy, upgrades visa classes. And that is from the New Telegraph.
It's on the front page of the Daily Independence, the Punch, the Nation. Rotimi, this is good from 6 to 79 economically.
Well, in terms of politics and economics, it is an advancement. If you've traveled from Nigeria to other countries over a few decades, you would have heaved a big sigh of relief on getting to some countries, outside ECOWAS. So there was a time when if you're a Nigerian going to East Africa, for instance, say to Kenya,
right?
If all your paperwork was not complete, you would be detained on arrival,
right?
Put in a cell and deported. Now, I believe that's one of the countries you can get your visa on arrival,
right?
When you get there. Same thing for Tanzania. Tanzania had an even more awkward process where it was incumbent upon you to not just go to the High Commission or embassy, depending on if you're a member of the Commonwealth or not, do everything. They will give you a letter which you, the traveler, then had to fax at the time to their Ministry of Internal Affairs. And if your head is functioning properly, also fax a copy to an airport number. And then when you turn up with all the paperwork, if they haven't received the fax at either of those places, you will still be turned back.
Right.
That's how backward things were. Nigeria is one of the last countries to start giving visa on arrival to certain categories of people. I've had to explain what happened in other countries so that people can see how people see Nigeria from outside. So from a political point of view, from a sporting point of view, from an entertainment point of view, from a tourism point of view, if the tourism industry becomes better organized, it is beneficial. However, there is one big test.
Okay.
Nigeria's integrity regarding corruption at the border is about to be tested very seriously. Because visa on arrival doesn't mean you can just turn up and you will get it. You still have to have a proper and well-documented reason for wanting to turn up. even many countries that give tourist visa on arrival, you still need to have made certain bookings.
Right.
Where you are going,
True.
where you are staying, your return tickets.
And proof of that.
So
Well, you should
if
go check
somebody
out.
turns up at our border with a bag of dollars without anything,
Right.
can we trust that every single officer
At their
Yes,
post will be
will
diligent
be able
enough
to and say,
to
I'm
scrutinize.
so sorry, please. you
Well,
know.
we now have visa classes. We used to have 6 classes of visa. Now we have 79. That's a huge increase. You might want to go check out what these categories are. Important to know that Nigerians in diaspora who either by birth, marriage or nationalization have assumed dual citizenship, this category of Nigerians will now be able to make use of their passport of their adopted countries to visit Nigeria without the need for short stay visa. So there's been a lot of changes made. Go check out the details. Let's see another story.
Right, we should. Let's look at the Punch newspaper. Can flays Buhari's claim that 90% of Boko Haram victims are Muslims. That's on the front page of the. It's a banner on the front page of the Punch newspaper. It's also similar here on the front page of Daily Independent. 90% of Boko Haram's victims are Muslims. Buhari tells Can rider FGE not averse to Can's protest. The presidency. That's the Daily Independence newspaper. If you pick up the Daily Trust, you find it on the front page as well. 90% of Boko Haram victims are Muslims. Buhari, and of course on the front page of the Nation newspaper, it's also there. Buhari, Muslims are 90% of insurgency victims. Rider killings worry JNI.
Let's go to the New Telegraph. 90% of Boko Haram victims are Muslims, says Buhari. Says insurgents want to divide Nigerians on religious line. Presidency says Can's protest against terrorism killing in order. The story is also reported by other dailies today. It's a bigger story here on the Vanguard. Insurgency, 90% of Boko Haram's victims are Muslims, says President Buhari in article published in U.S. magazine. Adds slain Pastor Andimi's faith should inspire all Nigerians. No multi-stakeholder survey to prove president's assertions. That's coming from Khan. Why Christians are now targets of deadly terror attacks. Investigation. You might want to see what this investigation is about. Who's done it? Let's see. It's on page 5. I'm wondering. But then when I saw the president's tweet, it was also published on Twitter. I think it was trying to be diplomatic, by explaining that it's not a Christian thing. However, there's also a tiny risk of pushing the same religious lines. Why not just say whether you're Christian or Muslim, you're all Nigerians? So I think this is why Khan is also throwing back a reaction.
I mean, this is one of these issues on which nuance is really crucial. Now, I can't say who drafted the thing for the president. It would have been great to know which one of the aides.
I can suspect
Because-
with the writing,
Well,
with
we,
the tone.
we cannot
can
suspect. We all have our suspicions.
I
But these days, there is a cluster of them that are beginning to sound alike. So, let us go with the facts first before we start talking about what the president has said. On the basis of demographics, on the basis of the Shakabula, which is the scattergun approach of Boko Haram historically, more Muslims have been victims of Boko Haram than Christians. I mean, for instance, don't forget, there was a time when mosques were very regular targets. You can't convince me reasonably that when a mosque is attacked by suicide bombers, that there are more Christians than Muslims inside that mosque. It's just not true. And a lot of the villages overrun, overtaken demographically are occupied by more Muslims than Christians. Now, is the president correct in saying 90%? Probably not.
We can't prove that.
Very
Yes,
likely
exactly.
That is
Exactly.
probably overstated.
not. And
Right.
that overstatement is not
Right.
helping.
Yes,
It's
so
not helping.
it is most probably an overstatement by the president. But as to whether more Muslims have been victims than Christians, yes, that is broadly correct. But what the president, as the president of all
Right,
Nigerians, I mean, should be focusing on is that there are, in fact, any victims
Right.
of Boko Haram. I'm not entirely sure that Muslims will feel relieved that,
90%.
the president says that,
Right.
in fact,
Right. Is that
you
supposed
know,
to suit
Right.
anybody?
yes, that
So it
you
looks
know,
like the purpose of this
they won't-
message is
Muslims
defeated.
Muslims won't find it soothing at all. Now, having said that, the more gruesome killings have been of non-Muslims.
Right.
So this is where
And
nuance.
filmed.
This
you
is
know.
where nuance
Yeah.
comes in. The
Right.
more gruesome killings, and the more gruesome killings hold the public imagination.
Right.
So if-
Especially because these videos are shared and
Yes.
people can see.
Yeah, so if Boko Haram has beheaded a dozen non-Muslims and filmed and shared, but attack on mosques and on villages have killed 1,000 Muslims, it is the 10 gruesomely killed, filmed, shared
Right.
that capture the public imagination.
Absolutely.
These are the kind of nuances that anybody in position of president should be making.
Right.
But having said that, we know the problem with the presidential advisors and their
Yeah.
media sensitivity. So no need to
It looks like
to
to me
overflog it.
like the purpose of trying to encourage Nigerians not to go down the religious divide was defeated by just throwing around numbers that you can't verify. Just
Yes.
saying Nigerians
Yes.
were
The-
concerned about the lives
the
of
statement,
Nigerians.
the
you know.
statement should have focused more on the fact that the broad strategy of extremists
Right.
is to create a wedge to divide people along ethnic and religious lines,
Right.
and then put themselves at the front of one religion.
Yeah.
In fact, Boko Haram's fantasy is to create reprisal killings.
Yeah.
And once, if they are successful at that, then it will be to your tent or,
Right.
whoever
And
you are.
Or
can
whoever.
you can help people from reacting the way they feel they should react.
Yes, but
And it's the job of the president to try and nuance properly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And be as neutral as
yes,
possible.
it's also partly the job of the media, people like us,
Right,
to
right.
explain what the Boko Haram strategy is and what they hope to benefit.
Yeah, I think the
from
president
it.
tried to explain that. I mean, it was just a bit smeared
Yeah.
by this,
And you know what the
yeah,
media
yeah,
again
certainly.
will
I
jump on.
actually liked the message. It was
Right.
just this part, that's kind of spoiled everything. Now, the Guardian has this other story, and Rotimi just mentioned visa on arrival. What if people turn up with money? We still keep finding money at Lagos Airport. Custom intercepts 2.9 billion naira cash at Lagos Airport.
Right.
The story is on the Guardian newspaper. It's also on the Vanguard. Customs intercepts $8.065 million cash at Lagos Airport. And somehow I feel like this person is a nutcase because according to the report, the notes had names on them. The person wrote on
So
the notes.
no, it's the money. The monies were wrapped in small bags with some names on
With
those
names.
bags, like loads of them.
This is what you call, you see, there's this word that was invented for people like this. It's called overconfidence.
And I'm wondering, why would you do that?
He's
Like
overconfident.
billions. You took time to write names on billions.
No, you see, when whoever, this is not one person. This is a group thing, a
Right.
syndicate thing. They've probably done it before
Right.
with lesser amounts of, maybe $500,000, maybe $1 million, maybe two. I mean, for people who don't know, really, you can get $1 million out in a medium-sized briefcase if you haven't seen those bills. So they've probably done this a
Right.
few times
Right.
and became overconfident that their network inside
The airport.
Would help them get
yes,
away
can
with this
help
again.
take out or bring in a bigger consignment. If you drill down to the details, it was found in possession of a member of staff a lot, if not all of it, was in an official vehicle belonging to the airport, one of the airport authorities. In other words, someone that had
An
clearance
insider.
to drive around.
Right.
So it's overconfidence that, they've probably done smaller amounts before. They can now go mega, and probably desperation to get the cash to whoever, wherever.
Right.
Well, this report just says it was packed in 6 backpack bags and loaded in a coastal bus. I didn't say whether it was
I've seen
the airport.
I've seen more detailed reports.
Right.
And I know people that know.
What does this say, in detail about the security at our airports? I mean, we can't overemphasize the porous nature of our airports in this country. We're just trying. This is just one, Rotimi. We don't know how many of such consignments, illegal monies, and even products, in some cases, have gone or entered into the country.
Yes, but both in and out. I'm sure that both customs and immigration are aware that there is a reasonable amount.
That's a lot of money. $8 million.
Look, both customs and immigration are aware that there is a reasonable amount of corruption going on at our border posts. How much that corruption is, none of us can tell for certain. Look, even the idea that some officers steal, I mean, not all, because if it was all of them, I mean, as people say, God help Nigeria.
Right.
It's not all of them, but some, and that some is enough. I know people that still arrive in the country and still say that they are still begged for money. Anything for us.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Sure.
Christmas.
That's irregular.
It's New Year.
Unfortunately,
It's
it still
irregular.
happens.
So
It reduced at a point, but it looks like
the fact that it still happens.
it still
for,
happens.
For people who are old enough, they will remember when the American TV program 60 Minutes from CBS actually sent an Oyinbo reporter down to Nigeria. I mean, in those days, there were no biometrics for passports. You could probably just get one at Oluwole. That's what, if you know what Oluwole is one place in
Oluwole
central
can
Lagos
forge anything.
where you could get anything, And this guy came in wearing all the, undercover gadgets, and right from the airport was filming people demanding money. He was giving money. He came in, got an Oluwole passport where he was certified as a Nigerian, within 1 week, and so on and so forth like that. And one of the guys who was so unfortunate to have been broadcast on 60 Minutes was then arrested. And I believe he committed suicide.
Ooh.
Yes,
That's
so I mean, you would
unfortunate.
think, because I mean, it was really terrible to have your face splashed all over American TV as the face of official border airport corruption. You would think that after those kind of things happened, that,
You actually expected that was going to
that yes, that people will learn
How?
that, and
With the number of robbers that have been caught as robbery.
and
stops.
please corruption is not peculiar to Nigeria.
No, it's not.
There is corruption in the US, there is corruption in Europe, but it is the brazen nature of the corruption in Nigeria in
Brazen.
certain places that makes people wonder what on earth is happening. That's where this perception index comes from, not just with officials, but with politicians.
Right, let's see this story that's not going anywhere anytime soon, and it's on Okada. No going back on Okada ban, says Sanwo-Olu. It's on the Vanguard. It's also on several papers today. This comes on the heels of the commissioning of 14
ferries.
yesterday. Capacity carry between 30 to 60 people per ride.
I'm glad you mentioned capacity right at the top. So,
Right.
I mean, sometimes you don't.
Let me add that he also said that before the end of the year, the number will be increased to 30. I just shook my head when I heard that.
It still won't be enough. Please.
And the end of the year is 10
let me
months
not
away
let
from
me not
now.
overflog the matter. Can I just direct listeners to one of my tweets? My Twitter handle is just my two names together. Just go there and you will see where I've explained that, look at London, for instance, and that's what I've put there. London, 9.5 million people. Lagos, 25 million people. The London train system, the underground and the overground, has about 500 trains. Carries roughly 5 million passengers a day. The bus network, which is 6,000 buses plus, carries about 6.5 million passengers a day. And I've also put there details of the number of train stations, bus stops and so forth. Compare with Nigeria. All the buses described as BRT are less than 500.
You said about 500 more will be coming.
Okay, so even if it is 1,000, London is 9.5 million.
We're over
Lagos
20.
is 25 million. They have over 6,000 buses. If
we're projecting 1,000.
If you want to do scale, you should be multiplying that
in that
6,000, yes, to proportion. We are said to have 75,000 downfall.
Right.
And I noted there that they don't have bus stop. They stop anywhere.
Right.
The keke and the Okada combined, according to the registration figures available, are roughly 500,000. So it is this atomized, kele transport.
And which is why we might still end up back at the Okada and the Mara. But let's take some comments on our way out. We need to go now. Joy Forever on Twitter says, Rotimi just nailed it. The gruesome killings are what we are not supposed to witness. Every life matters. Christian or Muslim. Federal government needs to flush out Boko Haram, but giving amnesty to them is a no-no. Oladipo Ayem on Twitter says, good morning to you too. How did the president arrive at his statistics? This president during campaign told us that as ex-military personnel, he would lead the front against insurgency, but instead he chose the petroleum ministry. Rotimi, I disagree with you by saying Muslims are more victims of Boko Haram than Christians. And mind you, Boko Haram never attacked Sunni Muslim mosque. All their Muslim attack were on Shiites. That's
true.
Obi from Festac.
That's not
and
true.
There's a long one from Mayor from Aja. Unfortunately, it's too long. Tony from Ojo says, Mr. President, whoever the victims are, please apprehend the perpetrators.
That's
even
not true.
if the perpetrators
there are very, very
are
scientific
100
reports of
Christians.
the towns, villages,
Right.
and mosques that Boko Haram has attacked.
Right.
They
Unfortunately,
don't
we
discriminate
really need to go now. But Rotimi has explained, and you can also do your further research. When we come back from this break, let's talk coronavirus. Let's talk also Lassa fever. Updates we'll be giving you on these diseases. What are we doing to protect ourselves? That will be after the break. I'm Wemimo Adewuni.
And I'm Sheriff Quadry.
More talk, news, and sports